now Manuel Shvartzberg from Hunter and Gatherer, and
so I'm the odd one out here because I'm neither an artist nor I have an artist run space actually. I have a little collaborative project with a friend of mine who's a writer. I'm an architect by training, and I've been interested in artist run spaces and in art spaces more generally since maybe 3 or 4 years. My colleague who I work with is an Austrian person who studied economics, social policy, and philosophy. And he studied. He was always he's Austrian from Vienna. He was always very eccentric, and although he did very well in these very institutional and serious academic courses, he always thought he wanted to do art. And I'm an architect with all the institutional baggage that entails, and I work for a serious established firm. And about 4 or 5 years ago, I began a project which was a big public art gallery for the firm I work with. And it was really, really interesting for me to experience the making of such a big project, and especially having an interest in art a little bit from the outside, understanding how such a big project comes to fruition. So my relationship with the art world actually was always mediated through this filter of institution, and through the filter of official, the official terms of the game. Our first attempt at let's say criticizing this or trying to understand this was when we entered this competition called Future Art Spaces, which we won actually, and I've got the newspaper that we produce is in the audience. I don't know if you've managed to see it. What was interesting about this competition is that it was set up by the Royal Institute of British Architects, and it was again asking architects to come up with an idea for the art space of the future in very, very institutional terms. And in so doing, and because it was coming from a very institutional and also political framework, the competition actually asked participants to respond very, very, very accurately and precisely to a set of requirements which were really like box-ticking exercises. And these included things like accessibility and sustainability and harnessing leadership and innovation and creativity. All of these buzzwords of the kind of political environment of the day, which is basically third wave England, talking about a few years ago. And our submission was basically the response to that for us was to provide a series of policy ideas in a very seriously appreciated medium, which was the Financial Times newspaper, and actually criticize these agendas, and also maybe point out that there can be no interesting future if we're trying to think of the art space of the future by box-ticking exercises. So that was in a way a move to try and bring in the potential, that the urgency that more artist-led initiatives or artist-run spaces, or in a way the potential of art itself, to let that permeate the institution. Another project we did, which also deals with this issue of institutionalization, was in Tate Modern, which is England's biggest public art space, and it has like 5-10 million visitors a year, something very, very crazy. It's a very democratic and open and accessible and sustainable art space. About a year ago, there was a big event called No Soul for Sale, a Festival of Independence, of which for which Italia, so Kate's space and Richard's space here, participated, and they invited us to do a presentation. So we came up with this performance, which was called Permission to Dissent. The festival was set up around inviting spaces which were autonomous, no, or independent, or small, self-generated, into the institution. And we found really interesting that if you spoke to these people, they were all really critical about it. So they were all really like obsessed and worried about the fact that they were being instrumentalized, no? And they were, in a way, being framed by the institution. But very, very few of these spaces actually declined or rejected the offer. So there's obviously, what we were interested in was in that dialectic between the institution and the so-called independent art space. So what we did was give a very serious and authoritative lecture, actually, highlighting the importance and the authority of the big art space of Tate Modern, and presenting a captured artist, which actually was Richard, who's there in the middle, who would, at 3 different points of the performance, stand up and project 3 different approaches to dissent, to dissent towards normative culture. Now we're going to do a little performance that we did with Fabian, my colleague, last year at Italia. Fabian can't be here, so I've enlisted Richard. He's going to do his best possible Austrian accent for you.
Oh, no.
He's promised. So this is a kind of a scripted conversation, maybe more than a performance.